Dr. Pam Theriot, welcome to the Strength Connection. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you doing this. This is a topic that I've been really fascinated to dive in with you, because it's one I don't think is talked about a lot. I haven't heard much about it, of really health for our eyes. And as I told you, like I didn't realize like proactive eye health until a couple years ago when I had an issue where I had a protein, build up in my eyes from contacts, and it is not a fun thing to go through. And from that time, I started to recognize the value and importance of some proactive health for your eyes, and that's what we're going to dive into today. So I wanted to kind of start this kind of open. When we hear like a healthy body, we think of like fitness, like heart health and stuff like that. What is really a healthy eye?
Well, it is one that feels comfortable and sees clearly. So, fluctuating vision is a sign of having a dry eye, and really having the front surface of your eye is where light hits first when we're seeing. And so, that's where things can break down on the front surface when we wear contact lenses and we leave them in our eyes too long. We get inflammation. And then, probably during that episode you were having with too much protein on your contact lenses, you notice that your vision fluctuated, other than it being probably uncomfortable or even painful at times. Your vision fluctuated. And so fluctuating vision is a really good sign that your eyes aren't functioning the way that they should.
Mm. So it's often when we just from a layman's perspective, we understand like eyes is vision. Like if you have good vision or not, that is kind of like our own biomarker of whether our eyes are healthy or not, from there. So is that right? Is that about right?
Well, yes, but there are the silent thieves of vision like glaucoma. So even if you have great vision, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have your eyes checked. Everyone goes in for their annual exam with their primary care physician each year, because we don't know that our blood pressure is high until we measure it, or that our blood markers are off until, your blood sugar could get high. And it wouldn't be until it was like 400 or 500 before you would physically start feeling it, where it shouldn't be. It's that's three times higher than where it should be if you're all the way at 400. So sometimes it takes a long time for our bodies to feel the symptoms that we're having. And doing that annual eye exam or that annual checkup with your primary care doctor is a great way to have everything checked and make sure that your health is on track.
Hmm. Yeah. So with this is, I know eye health can have correlations with things that maybe we don't understand, like energy, like our mood, like focus and stuff. With something like our energy or like our overall mood, how does our eye health impact that, like either positively or negatively?
So definitely, not seeing clearly or crisply can be frustrating. Um, so there's that. There's also an idea that dry eye and depression are linked, and that if you have dry eye, it can lead to depression. So having a discomfort in your eye chronically can lead to anxiety, because you don't know when the symptoms are going to happen. It can cause anxiety, it can cause depression over long periods of time. But if you wake up in the morning and you see the birds chirping and you can feel, see the sunshine, it can definitely boost your mood. And, seeing colors at the right wavelengths also can boost mood.
Okay. Yeah. And about like focus, like with eye health and focus, I mean, the one thing I want to talk about a lot is probably the age that we're in right now, which is screens, which really changes up. But how does good eye health and having proper vision help with focus?
Right? So it's going to keep you on task longer if you're not struggling to know, oh, well, I'm doing my work. Is that a 3 or is that an 8? Is it a 5? And you're backing up and you're pushing the paper forward and back. So it's going to be able to, keep you on track longer. You're not going to lose your concentration as often if your vision is clear.
Yeah. So in your field of getting into this of optometry and stuff, have you seen, is there a lot of education or talk about preventative or proactive measures for eye health, or is it a lot from kind of the inside out of when somebody has an issue and then we fix it and stuff? Like, is there a lot of talk about the proactive measures for eye health? Because it's not talked about a lot in just kind of mainstream like health world from people.
Right. So that's where things are changing. We all know how to take care of our teeth on a daily basis. If I walked up to a 2 year old and said, "How do you take care of your teeth?" 2 year old, he would toddle on over to the sink and show me his toothbrush, right? But as a society, we don't know how to take care of our eyes. And we're trying to change that conversation in that the things that you do every day for your teeth, you could be doing similar things every day for your eyes that would prevent dry eye disease and computer, um, I'm sorry, computer vision syndrome from occurring. Because in the past 40 years now, as we've been becoming more and more reliant on our digital devices, structurally our eyes are changing. And what do I mean by that? So inside of our eyelids, we have 30 glands on the upper lid and 30 glands on the lower lid. And every time we blink, the eyelids come together and it squeezes those glands that should produce oil. And oil will come out and coat the front surface of our eyes and protect our tears from dehydrating, give us that crisp, clear vision. And when we're sitting in front of the digital devices like we are, we don't blink as often. Our blink rate goes down by a third. So, not because you were working on the computer yesterday, but because you've been working on the computer for 20 plus years every day, your blink rate has decreased so much that the glands inside our eyelids that are supposed to be producing this oil, the oil has started to harden and it's not coming out every time we blink.
Really? Wow.
Yes, so we can measure that in the clinic. We can take pictures of those oil glands inside the lids. Well, when I got the technology a couple of years ago, my technician that I work with, every day was learning how to do it with me. So I'm 50 years old and she is 30 years old. And so we took pictures of both of our eyelids. My eyelids look better. Just
Really?
saying,
Yeah.
because I didn't get a cell phone until I was in my 20s, and then smartphones didn't come along until I was in my 30s. So, but the 30-year-olds today and younger were born with a cell phone in their hand, and they are just constantly using their digital devices.
Wow.
So,
What is actually like what is going on with the eye with digital devices and stuff? Like we hear about the lighting and the close gazing, but what is actually like going on that's causing that? Like you said, we're not blinking as much, which is interesting. I didn't know blinking was such a like important thing for like our overall health. But what is actually happening with like the device that is changing the structure of the eye?
So it's that when we're concentrating on something, the digital devices in particular, but we do it when we're reading as well. So if you were sitting to read a book, you would blink less than if you and I were sitting on, let's say, at the table and having a conversation over a meal. We would be blinking more. So then if you're just staring at a book, you would blink a little bit less. But there's something about digital devices that cause us to really, want to concentrate on it. And so we blink a third less than our natural resting blink rate.
Wow.
And so that then ties into those oil glands in the eyelids not being contracted as often as they should be. 21 times a minute is our regular blink rate. And so when we're, typing along and working, then it's down to 7 times a minute. And over decades of staring at our devices, right, it's going to decrease the muscle strength of the lids, squeezing those oil glands, and the oil stagnates. And after it stagnates inside the lid, then the glands will actually start to atrophy.
Yeah. Was this a big shock to the community in optometry or all? Like, was this seen coming down the line since technology has become more and more prevalent in our society and our daily lives?
So, no, unfortunately, we didn't see it coming because we didn't have a way to image those glands. In the last 10, 2014, I want to say we had the first device that could help unclog those oil glands. It was called LipiFlow, and it came out in 2014. So here we are 11 years later. We now can easily image these oil glands. I have an app that a camera that attaches to my cell phone, so I could carry it around the office and image everyone's oil glands in one sitting. But it used to be a big kind of microscope that you stuck your chin
Right,
in,
sure.
and pulled your lid down and then measured it. So now there's handheld devices where we can really take an image of those glands and see the health of them. But going back, 2014 was the only device available to treat them. Now we have lots of different treatment options that can actually help to re-energize those glands. They can heal them and get some growth of them, so we can actually rehabilitate the glands.
I was going to ask, is this a preventable? Can you rehab this type of issue and start blinking more?
Right. So we can rehab them, but even more so, there are things we could do to prevent that from getting to the point where you need to have a treatment in office. Doing something as simple as doing a warm compress on a regular basis can help to melt that clogged oil in the glands. Laying a warm compress over your eyes and then doing some blinking afterwards to excrete that clogged up oil. And there's new research that's showing us that vibration on the lids can help that oil to become more liquid instead of being clogged. And so there's some lid cleansing devices on the market now that vibrate as you cleanse them, and it helps to soften those oils again.
That's interesting. I have a friend who he's a chiropractor and also does some preventative work for rehab injury. And he has a whole wellness center where you have the Nortec leg sleeves for that, but he also puts an eye mask on that has a vibrating mechanism to it. That was actually the coolest thing the last time I was in there. It actually, there's like an energy boost, to that from the vibration on your face. I don't know if that correlates with eye health or not, but that was one of the most interesting things I remember from that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm glad that other specialties may be thinking about this as well, because it's relatively new in eye care. But I think that, as I was saying earlier, as we taught our children how to take care of their teeth since age 2, we can begin to teach ourselves and then our children how to take care of their eyes, because it's really, right now, it's our kids that are spending so many hours a day on screens at such a young age, and to lose those glands at an early age is going to be detrimental to society 40 years from now, as those kids go into the workforce, and they're in the middle of their careers, and their tear film can't sustain a comfortable eye through their workday.
Yeah. What's happening with, as you mentioned, the glands and like the oil getting stuck there? Like, what is happening from the cause of that? Is there a vision issue that can come from that? Is it more like dry eye, like disease that comes? Is it a combination of both? What can actually happen if you don't do some of these preventative measures and, obviously don't want to go down that route?
Right. So the first thing that'll happen is the tear film is going to evaporate very quickly. If there's not enough oil in your watery tears, then they evaporate into the air. That's going to cause your vision to fluctuate. So if you've ever been staring at the computer for long hours and then you're like, oh, I need to rub my eyes, and oh, now my vision's clear, right? So you just massage those oil glands, you push some oil onto the tear film, you stimulated it and smeared it all around, and you're like, oh, my vision's clear, right? So, but the second thing is that it's quite painful for your eyes to dry out, right? It's a mucous membrane. So just like your nose is a mucous membrane, your eyes are a mucous membrane, and if they get dry, it is quite painful. So you can use artificial tears to refresh your eyes, but they only last a few minutes. So really having a healthy eye that has enough oil and enough watery part of the tears is what's going to give you comfortable eyes and clear vision.
Yeah. I know from my experience of I forget what it's called when it's the protein buildup that got in, and but I would wear like monthly contacts, so they were renewable. You put them in the solution, but I guess that's where the protein can build up a lot, versus now with dailies, I have not had that issue after it got resolved. But that when your eyes don't feel good, like the sensitivity to the light and like the water, it is like so debilitating of doing anything throughout the day, versus I've had, a million injuries and tweaks and stuff like you can manage throughout. When your eyes are not feeling like they can be a part of you, it is one of the like the world stops in that moment. So like what you're talking about here with the proactive solutions by just a few minutes a day of doing these things, I think is so vital, to just add in, and don't wait for that time when you have to, deal with something like that. A couple of these things, it seems like each day will help kind of stave these off.
Exactly. You're right onto it. And unfortunately, that's a lot of people's reality is it, until they get to that point where they're like, I can't open my eye. It's so light sensitive or it's so painful. And they rush to the doctor and they get it taken care of. And luckily for you, you had a great eye doctor that was like, okay, let's prevent this from ever happening again. Instead of you overwearing your monthly ones or not cleaning them properly or whatever it was that caused it, put you in a daily disposable contact lens. Every time you put in your contact, it is fresh and clean, and we're going to eliminate this problem.
Yeah.
So smart. But on the flip side, there's other ways that people become that debilitated. Dry eye can cause that same kind of debilitation, and it's much more difficult to rehab than switching out a contact lens.
Yeah, I said that, and sciatic issues. Like, those are the two things I don't wish on anybody of coming in. Um, with the,
Right.
there's been the big, revolution of blue light glasses and stuff for people of getting in, because I'm sure it's like it would be good if we're not on devices all day, but most people are going to stay on that from their business and just kind of the daily life. What is your take on the benefits of like blue light blocker glasses, or like things that you can do in, are there real good benefits to this? Have you seen? Is it overhyped in a lot of the benefits that, they're getting? What is your take on that?
So I have two comments. First would be that they're not necessarily going to reduce any eye strain. It's not going to make you blink more. It's not going to make your eyes more moist. Um, so on a scale of, should I put blue light blocking glasses on all day long while I'm sitting at the computer because it's going to make my eyes more comfortable? Studies have not really panned that out, that it's going to be that much more comfortable. However, I do recommend that you wear blue light blocking glasses when the sun goes down, because blue light from your screen is the same blue light that comes from the sun, and it has an effect on our bodies that it stimulates our circadian rhythms and will upregulate serotonin when we see blue light. So it wakes us up, we're ready to go. Blue light is good. We all need to have blue light in our lives to have our circadian rhythms put into effect. And as the sun sets, we get less and less and less blue light. Melatonin can then be uh, expressed, and then we'll get sleepy and go to bed. We're on our cell phones until it's bedtime, reading. Maybe you're on your phone reading a book even because you're winding down, but you're still on your phone, which is blasting blue light at you. Then your circadian rhythms are going to be offset.
Ah, God. So our devices are tricking us into believing the sun is still up and it's still time to get some things rolling, versus this is the time to wind down.
Right. And some phones do have, a blue light blocker, or there's different things that you can put on your phone so that it does
Yeah, like dark
decrease the
mode.
amount of blue light. Yes. Yeah. So you can do that with your phone or your tablet. But really, at the end of the day, when it's dark outside, we don't need to have any blue light coming at us, and it comes from our televisions, our computer screens, all the things that you're doing up until bedtime.
Okay. The other glasses I
Unfortunately.
see a lot are like the bright, like either yellow tinted or like red tinted glasses that are out there that you do during the day. Is there much have you seen much of that and the benefits of that? Some people have said it's more of cognitive focus that they get in from. I don't know what's going on in there, but the other type of optimization glasses, what's your take on that, Dr. Pam?
Right. So having a yellow or an amber tinted lens increases contrast. So if you are skiing, let's say, so you're out on the slopes and it's, all white, and you want to know when you're going over a bump or a mogul, that yellow tint can enhance that contrast for you. Um, Sometimes people who play field games like soccer or field hockey, they can get some enhanced contrast with that as well. So, and the other is driving at night, like professional truck drivers might wear a yellow lens at night to get better contrast in the dark.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Nike came out with a contact with that a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I tried them. It was very strange, just trying to play baseball so you can pick up the seams in the baseball better. It was bit like early 2000s or so. I remember when Nike did, I don't
Yes.
know if those are still around or if that was just not a great
They
idea.
are not, but I think they were made in partnership with Bausch and Lomb. Because I remember fitting them. That was back in 2008, 2010 timeframe, and they came out as sports contact lenses. Like you could get them with zero power and just wear them to enhance your playing.
Hmm.
It's
So
amazing.
one thing I saw, I've referenced this book way too many times on this podcast, but it's called Blue Mind by Dr. Wallace Nichols. I don't know if you ever read it, but it's the book's about a lot of people who live on the islands and why like being around water is like very good for our mental health and people are like more happier and more joyful. But there is a topic in there about short gazing versus long gazing, where so much of the work that we do in our society is everything is very close to us in our gaze from our walls and stuff, where getting out and looking out into the ocean or looking over into a view has a big thing to do with like just our psyche and our perspective. I don't remember if there was a specific benefit to eye health from that, but is there something to health in the eye for gazing at distances from short to long?
Absolutely. So before we're at the age of 40, um, our ability to see across the room should be simple. Now, you wear contact lenses, so I'm assuming you're nearsighted, but when you put your contact lenses or your glasses on, you can see across the room. And there's actually no effort in our vision. Our eyes don't have to do anything if we're corrected with glasses or contact lenses to see across the room. But before we're the age of 40, when we focus up close, so 2 year olds, 10 year olds, 40-year-olds, we make an effort inside of our eyes. A muscle contracts, pulls the lens into a different shape on the inside of our eyes to focus us up close. And so that is about an amount of energy to focus us. And then, depending on how good you are at focusing up close, you can lose your focus after a bit of time. And then you have to make an effort to have that come back in. Now, once you hit 40, 45, you have this thing called presbyopia that happens to everyone, and we lose our ability to change the shape of the lens inside of our eyes, and then we have to end up wearing reading glasses. Truth be told, is that our bodies were created to see far away, right? That is how we were put on this earth, to be hunters and gatherers and see far away. And we have completely shifted the way we live our lives by putting these computer or digital devices in front of us. And so we're no longer doing a lot of distant viewing anymore. I mean, even in classrooms, kids aren't looking at the chalkboard, they're looking at the computer straight in front of
Right,
them
yeah.
instead of looking all the way across the room. You and I remember like the kids that had to get moved to the front of the class so they could see the board
Yeah.
better, right? But now everything is just right in front of them, and it's actually more of a physical effort to focus up close than it is to focus far away.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, it's I do this thing where when I train, I grab a couple kettlebells and I go down to this lake by me, and just being out in the open with seeing the sun and just a gaze out into the lake, it's such a different feeling just physiologically in my body as well. So I know everything's connected in there, but that short gaze versus long gaze has stayed with me since years ago when I first read that book. So it's really fascinating.
So you feel physically different being outdoors versus like doing your kettlebells in front of a mirror at the gym, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I could see how that is. I mean,
Yeah, and I
you have
think, I
the
mean,
elements around
there's a
you.
cross pollination of, I think, a lot of good, dopamine stacking things from the nature and stuff like that. It's you're out in the, you have the grounding space, which, there's a lot of benefits from that, but just the gazing out and just seeing out in the realm, I was like, there's got to be something with the eye. I know psychologically, it's like you see far away, you're like, oh, my problems aren't that, that tough. It's like there's this whole big world and it's all working out the way that it's supposed to. So there's a lot I know going on it, but it's a visceral feeling difference of being outside and moving the body versus being in a gym. It's like both are going to benefit you, but that back and forth, I think, is a very powerful thing.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great realization as well, that if you just move your workout outside, you could increase your benefits.
I love it. Yeah. I want to talk about nutrition. And I think the only thing that we know is like carrots equal good vision. I think we all learned that from a song or something like that. But
Right.
I mean, I guess, what are the myths that we hear about nutrition and eye health that you've seen? And then on a flip, like, what are some of the positive things or maybe some practical things with nutrition and routine that we can do to help our vision and help our overall eye health?
Right. So I think the first myth is that
Is the carrots thing
carrots
bullshit?
make your vision. It is. Yeah. So
Do you know the
the
origin of how
carrots,
that came about? Origin of how that came about? Is that like a Santa Claus story from like the 1,000 years ago?
well, technically, the vitamin A in carrots is very good for your retina. So I don't know if there was maybe, along the lines of like scurvy, you're on a ship for lots of time, maybe they didn't have that one nutrient and they would notice that their vision would go down. But if they brought carrots on board with them or something, I don't know where it came from, but your
What?
retina does
Yeah.
use a lot of vitamin A. So
One
that's
ship
where the
did it, and they're like, everybody else is going to do this forever. Yep.
right. So, so there are some really great nutrients that we do need for healthy vision. So carotenoids are very important for our retina to have healthy antioxidants back there because the retina is where we're doing all of our seeing. The images that come into our eye form on the retina and then go to the brain so that we can see. So it's highly metabolic, and we do need carotenoids there to help us see better. Um, and then
And what are
there
those? Like,
are
what are good examples of that?
beta carotene, zeaxanthin, lutein. Those are really great carotenoids, antioxidants that we need to have in our diet. And then we need to have omega-3 fatty acids. So, as I was talking earlier about the oils in our eyelids, that you need to have plenty of omega fatty acids to have clear, healthy oil come out of your eyes. Unfortunately, like I live in Louisiana, people here eat fish. It's catfish, though, right?
Yeah, right.
Not
Yeah.
cold water fishes
Mhm.
that are going to be high in that omega 3s. So I do a lot of talking about supplementing omega 3s because realistically, I guess unless you're living in Seattle or Alaska, you're probably not eating enough salmon, mackerel, shark to really get that omega into your diet. So a lot that is helpful. And the final thing that I'll say that's helpful overall to your eye health, but specifically to your tear film, are anti-inflammatories. So vitamin C, curcumin or turmeric. There's some new supplements out on the market specifically that have these ingredients in them that are helping to heal dry eye, increase your tear production, and bring down inflammation on your eyes in general.
Yeah, there's actually a coffee creamer that I've used before, which was like an eye. It's like had like an eye health cream. It was turmeric was like the number one thing in there.
Yeah, yeah. Because the things that we put around our eyes now, you're a man, you probably don't smear a lot of things around your eyes, but women put on makeup first thing in the morning and they leave it on all day. And then hopefully they take it off at night. But a lot of our cosmetics contain toxins that can harm the front surface of our eye. And unknowingly, women are putting these things on their eyes all day long. That's causing inflammation to the front surface of the eye. So having red eyes is not a good reason to reach for the Visine to decrease the redness. It's really an invitation to say, why are your eyes red? Why are they irritated? If you think back to when you had protein deposits on your contact lenses, do you remember how red your eyes were?
Oh, it was
Right?
awful.
They were
Yeah.
angry and tearing, and
I
you
looked
looked
like I
like
was
a
stoned
vampire.
24/7 for, yeah, a couple weeks. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. So the inflammation is a huge driver of dryness in our eyes and decreased tear film. Inflammation causes that. So anything we can do to decrease the inflammation around or in our eyes is great for your eye health and also for your appearance because nobody likes to have their eyes look red.
No, I mean, especially like once you reach after 35, I think this is for men and women, like the one main difference you can see is around the eyes of of just like, just like beauty looks of stuff like you can see the different when I was in a very stressful job, like you could see I had a lot from lack of sleep and stuff, like you could see it versus when I got out of it, a little bit more healthy environment. That was the first thing people said is like, "Oh my God, your eyes look amazing." So it's one of those things that we notice right away.
Right. Yeah. Inflammation around the eyes causes wrinkles, premature signs of aging. Smoking causes wrinkles around the eyes very readily. That you can look at a person's eyes and tell that they're a smoker because they're 30 and they've got fine lines. Same kind of thing. So the eyes really do tell your age quite well.
Yeah. So with so omegas are great. Went through a lot of other ones,
And
which is great from there. On other lifestyle aspects or like kind of daily habits or practices that we can do, what are some of the things on like a regular basis that you have found are the longest levers to help with eye care?
right? So I teach something called 4 simple steps, just like you have toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, and mouthwash. You would have artificial tears, a lid and lash cleanser, a warm compress, and then a nutritional supplement are my 4 simple things to do every day. So artificial tears might be something that you just leave by your computer. You've been on the computer for 2 hours, you start feeling like your vision's fluctuating in and out. Put in some artificial tears. But the second thing is lid and lash cleanser. So there's specific cleansers that you can find at the pharmacy that are specific for the eye area because dirt, dust, debris, pollen is going to accumulate in your lashes throughout the day, and that is going to increase inflammation around the eyes. So that would be number 2 is that at the end of the day, take your makeup off, you scrub your lids and lashes, or you hop in the shower, you take an extra moment to use a cleanser on your lids and lashes, can go a long way, just like we wouldn't not brush our teeth. We do the same thing on your lids.
Okay.
The third was warm compresses, as I was saying earlier, that would help to melt the oil that's in the lids that gets trapped there. And then the fourth is a nutritional supplement. And normally, I recommend the omega-3 fatty acid supplements to increase that oil layer of our tear film. But there's a newer one on the market that I was talking about earlier by Bausch& Lomb called Blink, the Blink NutriTears that has that curcumin, those antioxidants, and vitamin D in it. So, like readily available at the pharmacy, you can pick these things up. And I did put together a handout for being on this podcast for your listeners, so they could download this and be able to follow along with it.
Oh,
So
perfect. Oh,
we
that's
will
awesome.
link that in
Yeah.
the show notes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we'll get that in the show notes. The art of like artificial tears, is that a specific thing or is it just any eye drops work really well? Are there better ones that we should be looking out for?
so there's been an explosion in the artificial tear market in the last 5 years. Um, not all artificial tears are created equally. There's a ton of science that goes into it. And I always preach to my patients to use a preservative free artificial tear because the preservatives in eye drops can be harmful to the front surface of your eye, especially if you are like, oh, well, some artificial tears is great, a lot must be better, and that people start overusing them, then you get too many preservatives in your eye. So preservative free would be the first thing that I would reach for. And then in all honesty, I would pay the extra $3 to $5 and get the branded tears. There's a number of good brands that you can find at your grocery store. Stain, Refresh, the Blink. Blink comes from Bausch& and Lomb. So a good artificial tear. Some other ones are Optase or Ivisia. There's lots of them on the market, but I would get a branded, not a generic, preservative-free artificial tear. And then the third thing is whether or not you want oil in the artificial tears. Some of the newer ones are putting flaxseed oil or castor oil into the artificial tear so that it has a longer time that it stays on your eye.
Okay.
So if you're susceptible to blurred vision, if you don't like your vision to be blurred for even 3 seconds while you're blinking, then you will not like oil in your tears. But if you do have a drier eye and you want the tear to last longer, then the oil is a nice additive.
Always got to be adding. It's always an optimization of everything, right? We've got to add everything in. So you said like it'd be like it's good like if you're a computer, desk jockey, like you're there, like if you're feeling, is it like if you're just feeling it, that's good? Is that something that you can just do regularly, proactive? Can you do too much of that, like of
So I'd
using
say
it?
if you are using artificial tears more than 4 times a day, then there's something more
Something else
going
going on.
on, and you should see your eye care practitioner. Yeah. So if you feel like you're reaching for it more than 4 times a day, you need help. And there's prescription medications, there's in-office therapies, there's at-home therapies, there's all sorts of things that you can do to make your eyes feel better.
Yeah. So with warm compress in there, is there a certain time frame that like you recommend of like, putting on there? Is it a certain like no, I'm guessing like washcloth with like hot water is good enough? No.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, technically, to get to the clinical level where you're going to melt that oil in your lids, it needs to be above 108 degrees for 10 minutes or more. And so there's microwavable masks. There's USB masks that you plug in. They're electric, and then they get hot right away. And you can set them and then leave them on your eyes for 10 minutes. But there's masks that vibrate. There's masks that blow mist at you.
Is
There's
it
all
really?
sorts of
It's
stuff.
so fun when I know nothing about this stuff. So listeners, please, if I'm so out of the loop and you guys know all about this, please let me know from there. But that's fat. So like specific like mass like a microwave mass. You said 108 degrees.
For at least 10 minutes. Yeah. So, um, Brooder is a brand. I'm in my office, so I'm thinking I must have a mask right here. Here we go. Um, yeah. So this would be like one of the microwavable types. You just put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. It's got little beads that heat up. And then they are moist heat. It releases some moisture, and you just lay it over your eyes for 10 minutes. But that combined with something as simple as just a lid and lash wipe, you can find little pre-packaged lid wipes, but there's also foaming cleansers and um, Sprays.
Is that important for everybody? I know you mentioned like women, if you're wearing a lot of eye makeup, you want to, take it off. Is that something that everybody should do, like the lid wipes?
Absolutely. So what I would say is, when was the last time you didn't brush your teeth for 4 days?
Yeah,
You can't remember,
my dad's a
right? Like,
dentist first, but second, yeah, no, never.
okay, so let's think about like the last time you didn't brush your teeth before you went to bed and you woke up in the morning, you were like,
Yeah, you feel
oh,
sickly.
like
Yeah,
that.
it's gross. Yeah.
Right? Well, the same thing is happening on our eyes. We have a biofilm on our eyelids. So if you were to start cleansing your lids and lashes and doing it once a day, let's say for 2 weeks, and then you forgot, you'd notice. It's the fact that we haven't made this a habit yet to know what good, clean eyes feel like that none of us know that we're missing it, right? But so I'm so glad your dad is a dentist. So if we think like 100 years ago, it's probably more like 80. But toothbrushes weren't readily available, right? They they weren't the norm, right? And even back in like George Washington's days, right? People just waited for their teeth to fall out. You're like 20 to 30 years old, you got a set of wooden teeth, and you just moved on. Well, some smart dentist along the way, I think it was in the 1940s, decided that if we cleaned our teeth every day, we would have a better chance of keeping them forever. And so the daily oral hygiene was born. And so now every 2-year-old in the US knows to brush their teeth. But the same thing, if we cleansed our lids and lashes every day, our oil glands in our lids would have such a better chance of surviving through our lifetime than if we didn't. But we're just at the infancy of this understanding because of the digital age, right? Because before 1980, we didn't have computers. And so people weren't staring at screens all day long, and there wasn't this epidemic of people having dry eye disease
Mm,
as there are now.
yeah. So, Last thing I want to just ask about is vision, because I'm one of the people. I had glasses since I was in third grade, just from poor vision. From there, is that like with vision? Is that something that is genetic? That like some people are just like they just are born with worse vision versus others? Is there things like early on? The question I had was around like when should we start like be thinking about like proper eye care? Is it like midlife and beyond? Is this something, if people are listening, they have children, this is things that we should do from an early age? Will that help with keeping our vision at like a high degree?
So there's two ways that we can become nearsighted. So there's a genetic proponent. So if you have one nearsighted parent, needs glasses to watch television, let's just say. So they're nearsighted. They put their glasses on, they see across the room. So if you have one nearsighted parent, you have a 30% chance of being nearsighted yourself. If you have two nearsighted parents, you have a 66% chance of being nearsighted. So there is a genetic component, and if one of your parents had a really strong prescription, then you're genetically proposed also to, have a certain percentage of your children will have a strong prescription as well. However, so there's a genetic component. There's also an environmental component. And this has been shown in so many studies, especially in Asia, where Asian children study at school for 12 hours at school and then come home and study more. And so there's a higher percentage of nearsighted children in Asian populations because they do that many hours of near work. And there's been tons and tons of studies over thousands of children has proven that excessive near work creates
Hmm.
nearsightedness, right? So having an eye exam, there's a strong push to try and get kids to have an eye exam in the first year of life because there's a few sight threatening and life threatening things that could be caught by an eye exam in that first year. So pediatricians are more likely recommending these first eye exams at 1 year. But let's say your kid is beyond a year and you're like, now what should I do? So if they haven't had an eye exam and they're the age of 5 or they're getting ready to go to kindergarten, absolutely, this is a great time. And if they're beyond the age of 5 and your kid has never complained about having poor vision, take them to the eye doctor anyway. Um, it's great to have that eye health assessment, have that vision assessment. So if you are nearsighted like you and I, and we need to wear glasses or contact lenses to see across the room, then you can pick up clues that your kid can't see across the room because you can point to something and say, okay, Michael, read that across the
Right.
room. And then they can't. But if your kid is farsighted, just like I was saying, we make an effort to see things up close. So if they can see all the way across the room, they can even read up close. But how much of an effort is that taking your child? And how much effort does that take, or how long can they sustain that effort? Are they losing concentration in class? Are they acting up in class because they can't concentrate long enough? It could be something as simple as Michael just needed a pair of eyeglasses a
Right.
little bit sooner and he would have done better in school. And so if your kid is school age, take them to the eye doctor for the first time, regardless of if they missed that age 5 check, because they should be given a vision exam to just know where they are. Are they developing properly? There are set standards of your vision should be between this power and this power at these ages. And if you're outside of that power range, well, there's things we can do to help the kids out.
Right. Yeah. So 30% possibly genetic from there. Thanks, mom. Appreciate it. No, I love you, mom. You're the best. But the environment, so if you do have like young kids, like you said, mentioned like studying like in like China, like in that culture, because they're doing so much studying from there, we see it a lot more. Is it is it a good thing then, like for kids get outside more, kind of get some long gazing or out? Will that help sometimes possibly steer off these markers that they might end up getting into like a nearsighted future?
Exactly. So studies are showing 1 hour a day of outdoor play can negate those signs of nearsightedness because more and more kids are becoming nearsighted as more and more of our lifestyles are being focused up close. And being nearsighted is not a crime, but it does correlate to eye health problems in your future. So if you are nearsighted, you're more likely to have glaucoma or retinal issues as an adult. So having higher amounts of nearsightedness can hurt your vision later.
So I remember hearing about LASIK like a while ago, and then all of a sudden it started to boom up, and everybody I knew started to get into it with LASIK. Has there been a big evolution in the world of LASIK surgery? Are you familiar a lot with that work and kind of what's going on in that realm?
Right. So we do LASIK at my clinic, where I work, every day. So I'm very well versed. So technology with LASIK has just kept up with itself. It's gotten better and better. People are having faster recoveries and less side effects from LASIK from when we started doing LASIK 20 years ago. So often patients will say, "Oh, I want to do LASIK, but I'm going to wait for the cost to come down." Well, it hasn't come down. It's really been level for the past 10 years at least, because the technology has just gotten better. You don't want to go in for that $200 LASIK. Don't do that to yourself. This is the one place you don't want to scrimp and go in for the bargain basement LASIK, because they're using old technology. LASIK
Gotcha.
today is using, it's an all laser LASIK. So it used to be they made a flap with a blade and then did LASIK and then flapped the flap back down. But it wasn't as precise as today's LASIK that uses all laser. And there's all sorts of different ways that they can utilize markers on the eye to guide the laser to, what if I look away? Will I ruin my vision forever? No, the laser's going to stop because it knows that it's not aimed at the right
Hmm.
spot. So there's all sorts of tracking devices and things that are built in these days.
Yeah. As that, where is that evolution going? Are we at like almost like the top there? Like, do you see this still evolving with that world of like, correcting eye vision?
Yes, it's still evolving, because the side effects of LASIK can be dryness, and so now they're going to procedures that take away less tissue, so that the incisions are smaller, and so that we're doing a smaller cut on the front surface of the eye, because going into the eye is cutting nerves, and then we have to wait for the nerves to regrow before the eye starts functioning the way it did before refractive surgery. So there's definitely, I think it's going to continue to evolve.
Yeah. Dr. Pam Theriot, thank you so much for this. I really learned so much from you, from the takeaways and just, everything that you're doing here. As I said before, like this was a personal thing that I started really recognizing that I needed to know more about in myself because I experienced it. And I know so many people got a lot of good stuff out of this today. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Michael.
No problem. If people want to check out like more, I know you have a blog, I know you have your site. What's the best place that they can go and check you out?
So my website is my name, pamterio.com. And if you go /strength, that's where you'll find that handout. My last name is spelled The Riot. PamTheRiot.com is my website. And you can also find me on socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Pam Theriot.
Perfect. Awesome. Listeners, go check the show notes. Make sure you can get that free gift from Dr. Terrio, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.